Hey, I'm Dan, and this is Dan's Planes. Introducing the VMar Dornier 335, or DO-335, or DO-335. So this was the fastest propeller-driven airplane in World War II. It's a little iffy, but they say it supposedly did have service. A couple pilots reported seeing them. Their commanders thought they were nuts, and a couple were shot down. They were probably being transported from one field to another. So were they actually in combat? Can't really tell. So if you say they were, then it was the fastest propeller-driven plane. It's unique, and of course, German engineering we all know about. It had all kinds of cool features about it. Having a puller prop on the front and a pusher prop on the back, but one fuselage made it not have the torque issues you could have if you had a plane with engines mounted on each wing. This was the first, what was it? First military plane, I think, to have an ejection seat system. The real ones, or full-scale ones, could fly with either prop. So if one engine got shot out, you're still fine. Let's see. It was a pretty big plane. It's hard to find information on this. It was kind of done late in the war as one of the wonder weapons of Hitler that was going to hopefully turn the tide of war, which was too little too late. So thankfully for that, or we'd have a whole different kind of world we live in today. So this plane I bought off a guy on Facebook, and I picked it up because, number one, I like unique airplanes, and number two, I have the much larger 7-foot by 7-foot ESM version, which I bought built by someone. I didn't buy the batteries that he had with it. I didn't think that it would give more than 2 or 3 minutes flight time on it, so I wanted to do my own batteries. But he had already balanced it to those batteries. It's coming in about double its flying weight. So there's a lot of work I need to do to it still, like grinding out all of the epoxied buckshot that's in the cowl, and the motors. It's electric. The motors were over motored and over ESC'd, so that also added more weight. So there's just a lot to do to that. So that's a whole other project. So I thought doing this one would let me see what kind of characteristics it has and just get used to seeing it in the air. The actual name of it is, if I'm pronouncing this right, the Pfeil, PF, I think EIL, which means arrow. And if you see it flying in the sky from a side view, it definitely looks like an arrow with that with the 4 tail fins. Interestingly, this bottom vertical fin was there just to stop a pilot from ruining the rear propeller during takeoff. Pretty interesting. They put that in place just for that purpose. Okay, so I picked this up from Facebook. The guy had several planes to sell. They all looked in pretty decent condition. It was already built. So then we were communicating, everything was fine. Got it delivered. The gentleman put it in a long box and literally left one end open and just put packing tape across it a bunch of times. So of course that end, which had the tail sticking in it. Got busted around. So I had a broken horizontal stab, which what I did is poked a bunch of holes in here with a needle and then put thin CA in so they could wick inside. And then underneath, because that wasn't going to be enough and it was still wiggling and kind of warping when you would move the elevator. You don't want that. So I put a carbon spar across it as well on the bottom. So hopefully nobody will really see. Kind of looks like a hatch or a panel line. Here's what the bottom looks like, by the way. There are some different details that are put into the shrink film. The plane is about 4-foot wingspan. Check the description for the details. It's been so long that I've had this plane and not been working on it that I totally forget what the dimensions are. So I had to fix that. The rear cowling got dented. The front cowling got dented. I was sent a rear collet for the propeller, but it wasn't the right size for the shaft. So I had to buy a new one of those. I just got it in recently. I had 2 3-bladed props that came with it, but they're both polar props. So that wasn't going to work. And 3 blades, I read, aren't as efficient as 2 blades anyway. So I'm going to use 2 blades on front and back. So this is a pusher prop here. Now I completely forget, what did I get here? Okay, so it's a 4.7 slow fly pusher prop. Then on the front, it is a 10.7 electric prop. Okay, so then the seller did not send the wing spar. So you might think a aluminum wing tube isn't that big a deal, but it's a pain in the butt when you don't have it. And he ghosted me after he sent the shipment. So I never got it. What was it? A half an inch equals, I think, 12.73 millimeters. And I needed to have, what was it? I needed to have a 12 millimeter or 11 millimeter. I think an 11 millimeter tube. I could not find one to save my life unless I wanted to pay like 40 or 50 bucks for a 4-foot tube. So I ended up getting a 1/2-inch tube and used this Harbor Freight sander because I didn't have a lathe and have no experience in lathing. So I went through one belt, and I had this so long that the spare belts that came with it, the adhesive had weakened and become brittle. So I ended up breaking 2 more belts before I finally tried going to Harbor Freight. They didn't have any more belts, and went to Lowe's. They had literally one hanging on the shelf. Getting the belt on and off is kind of a pain in the butt, and it took quite a while getting that thing ground down to finally fit. Then, of course, getting it cut to the right size. There you can see the infamous wing joining tube. And then they use metal wing retaining wing nuts. I'm using a Spectrum AR 6100E. I'm using the servos that came with it. It does have flaps. You can see those. So 2 access point hatches. It's going to, it flies using XT60 connectors. I'm sorry, there are 3 hatches. There's another one here for the servo. While I'm mentioning it, these 2 landing gear shouldn't be a problem, except they're this kind, and it never fails. You end up hitting one bad landing and it ends up denting the wood, and then your wheel ends up moving this way. And I haven't found really good fixes for that, rather than completely cutting into the wing and replacing front and back small pieces of hardwood. But if anybody has ideas, throw down in the comments, please. I just had to fix one of these last year on my MiG-3. The wheels are hollow plastic. This, of course, the strut is white brittle plastic. Those are barely holding together with some glue. The front wheel is really wobbly, and I'm giving it about 2 landings before I have some kind of problems with it. We shall see. It should be nice having a tricycle landing gear versus tail draggers for a change. So throwing in the battery, it's going to fly on a 3S 3300. No, wait, 3S? Was this 3S or 4S? This is, yeah, 3S 3300. When I threw it in, it seemed to balance perfectly, but that was before I added the tail spinner and propeller, and then before I added the front one. So the front one, you might notice I don't have a spinner on it because I'll take the cowling off to show why, but the style of motor that it is and the way that the motor is installed, it doesn't come out far enough to where you can see with that nut on there. Trying to show some shadow effect. There we go. You can see I can't even get the nut on the full way, and the back of the prop is barely missing the cowling. So I'm going to take off all the front and show you guys that. But I have another spinner. Now the front and back did have 2 slightly different style spinners, but hey, this isn't going to be a contest winner by any means. And there's no pilot, so it'll just be a ghost flown plane. So let me pull off the front and show you what's going on with the motor. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Dan from Dan's Planes. I just want to share some content about RC planes, something I've been passionate about since childhood. I'm hoping I can teach something to someone, I can start some discussion and learn some things from others. So let's just have some fun and learn some things together. If you enjoyed what you watched, it would really help me out if you could like, subscribe, and share. And if you feel that it helped you out in some way, or it might help future viewers, I'd really appreciate it if you'd visit my Patreon page and become a patron. It's like throwing a $1 tip into a guitar case when you pass by. It helps to fund future content and future projects that I'll be working on. I plan to show some past content. I have some other flights and I have some fly-in events that I've been to. And I also plan to show future flights and future repairs, as well as building ARFs, and if I can ever get back to it, building my top flight Spitfire. So there's a lot of content to come, but it's viewers like you that are able to support what I'm doing, and by doing that, I'm able to spend more time creating that content in the future. So I'd really appreciate it. But either way, thanks for watching, and thanks for any support, and I wish you blue skies and good speed.